oils. I think. Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of Empowered Wholeness.
Hi everyone.
And hello, hi. And I am here today with my friend and colleague, as always, Jade Brown from Jade Brown Wellness, and also my beautiful collaborator within Blue Pool. So we are going to be talking about gut health, and this is something that is really important from Jade's perspective in terms of our overall wellness, and certainly energetically there's a lot of links with that as well. So I'm going to hand over to Jade to start to share her wisdom around the gut. So thank you, Jade, over to you.
Hey, yeah, so gut health was one of the first kind of journeys, so to say, that I went on. Before then, I was still kind of eating really bad, not looking after myself, not looking at my mind. I was kind of living that really unaware life. And as always, when we're living that unaware, unconscious life, sometimes things come up really strongly, whether it's health, whether it's mental health issues. And one of the first things was my gut health, that it got to the point where I couldn't even eat food. I remember even trying to eat banana and it had to come back up. So I just couldn't eat. And I went to the doctors, and awful experience. I spoke to some man and he was just saying to me, talking to me about bulimia. He's just talking, like saying all these things about bulimia, and I was like, no, like I'm not making myself be sick. Like I had bulimia like kind of before then, but it was nothing to do with that. But because I said like I was being sick, I couldn't keep food down, I was a young girl, he probably just assumed. So he was telling me all about that, showing me articles about it, and he wasn't listening. I was like, no, I understand what you're saying, but it's not bulimia right now. Like there is something going on with my stomach, like I just can't eat. So he put me on this medication, wasn't listening as well. And that's why it's really disempowering when you go to the doctors and they're not listening to you at all, and they're just assuming, and it's a horrible feeling as well. It makes you feel even more like a child, like you're being kind of told off and told what to do. And he gave me medication, it's for vertigo actually, that tricks your brain to stop you thinking you're sick, to stop you feeling sick. So I was taking this medication because, when you have no other knowledge, you're just like, fine, okay, he's told me to take this, and we put our trust in the doctors. So I started taking it, and it was just making me feel really mentally ill, actually. And I remember calling the doctors just in fits of tears, being like, this medication is it's making like, it's not improving my gut, like my being able to eat, it's making me feel really ill. And then I had another doctor, like the head doctor, call me back, and he was like, stop taking that medication. That is not what you need to be taking. It's just gut issues. You've just got IBS. So he gave me medication for stomach acid after that point, which I did take that, and it kind of did help. But that's when it really kicked in, this kind of, wow, I need to do something myself here. Like I even know this medication for stomach acid is not going to actually get me the results that I need. And I think that was the start of my journey, really tuning in and being like, okay, Jay, like what is this? What can we do about this? And I got kind of led. I was like, colonics. I'm just going to do colonic, because no one I knew had ever had a colonic or even recommended it. But I was just like, okay, no, I think I need to do that. And when I went to have the colonic, the woman there, who I'm still friends with now, she's amazing. She started talking to me about the gut and nutrition, and that was kind of the start of my journey with gut health, really. And I started to intuitively feel into what I needed, but really what it was for me was leaky gut, which a lot of people haven't heard of. So we have like our IBS is like a over generalization of just gut issues, but one of them is leaky gut, and that's just when the intestinal linings are damaged, and so it kind of leaves little holes in, and so toxins, food can just leak into your bloodstream, and obviously the lining is just so sensitive, really sensitive, and like the acid is more increased, it's not balanced out. You think of your gut microbiome is just not working as it should be. So I just went on a journey of healing my gut lining. And a lot of people suffer with this and they don't even really know that it's leaky gut. And that's the thing, we go on this kind of journey of going to doctors, they say it's IBS, and they kind of, you can't do anything about IBS. It's kind of left with that. But yeah, from that point, just there's so many things that I could talk about in terms of what I've done. But really, I suppose just on this call, just giving people information about how important the gut is, because it really has thousands of species living within our intestines, like more than our human cells, like way more than even human cells. And we start to develop this ecosystem when we're born. Like before we're born, we don't have an ecosystem at all. As soon as we're born, as soon as we come into this world, we start to develop this ecosystem which can work for us or work against us. And we have to do quite a lot to help our microbiome to be healthy. And also, our gut is our second brain, as probably a lot of people have heard. It's our second brain, and it's linked to our, I think, enteric nervous system. And our gut's linked to the vagus nerve, so it's always sending signals to our brain. And I really feel like my problems with my gut linked into kind of the build-up of my anxiety as well. Because I think they've even done studies on this, that if you just worked on the gut, your levels of depression, anxiety would lower for sure. But I totally believe it's so much, it's loads of things we can be doing, but it's definitely is linked, and it's linked to our immune system as well. Like our gut regulates like 75% of our immune system as well. So there is so many reasons that you could start looking at your gut. And not only that, it's because you can then start at that point, if you've got gut issues, as you know, you can't eat very much without feeling awful, without feeling really bloated. You're having more health issues because of it. You can't eat, like for me, it was like gluten, sugar, dairy, all the things that I would say, it's not like you have to cut these out forever. And when I speak to people about gut health and IBS, and they're told by doctors, you're intolerant, or they have tests, you're intolerant to this. Well, of course you are, because your gut can't handle it, because it's not strong enough to handle it right now. But once you actually do that healing, and I actually went on like a month kind of cutting out everything. So I would have limited sugar. So I'd literally just have like blueberries with my yogurt, and I would have at that point more like goats or sheep milk yogurt as well, before I even went dairy free, because it's a lot more easier for you to digest. That would be my only sugar. And I just started increasing, vegetables, cutting out alcohol, processed foods, having colonics, and just really upping all different supplements, loads of different things that you can do, your hydration levels. And it just started to heal. Things like bone broth. I won't give everything, but there is so many things that even now I assist people that I can take you through. And once that gut lining starts to heal, you can introduce those foods back and you're fine. And when I discovered that, and I went through that journey, which didn't even seem that long, and then I could eat things again and I felt absolutely fine. I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like this thing that I was really suffering with, the doctors couldn't do anything about, I've healed in a couple of months. And now I can eat anything. And it really, again, puts you on that journey of being embodied, understanding your gut, understanding what feels good, what doesn't feel good in your body. So that's kind of the start of my journey.
Yeah, that's an incredible story, because it's such a big, we don't realize the impact that our gut health has. And I've also had a similar sort of different things, but struggled for a long time with what was called IBS and what have you. And at one point, we were just talking before we came on the call, at one point, I was having really extreme pain that was essentially sort of in my gut, but where my solar plexus is. And I went to the doctors, because this was at the point when I was still going to find out answers from the GP, which I tend to not use as my first port of call anymore. But it literally felt like I don't know what that part of my body was, but it felt like somebody was literally twisting it like this, and it took my breath away. I couldn't breathe. And I had gastroscopy, so they could have a look, because they thought there was something going on. They said sometimes it can actually twist. They found absolutely nothing. It was all actually as a result of stress. So energy has a an enormous impact on on our gut health. So it's not just the foods that we eat, because often we think that gut health is all to do with what we're putting in our bodies and making sure that we're taking the right supplements and the right foods, but it's also linked with the energy that we're actually feeding our bodies with. And if you think about the type of person who often will have things like ulcers, that you've got somebody who's very anxious and they start to have these stomach acids, and often those come from emotional and anxiety and anxious emotions. So it's really important for us to be able to look at it from an energetic perspective as well. And the colonics also work with that, because we think that we're actually just clearing toxic waste through our bodies that's just not been able to be eliminated. But actually, if we think about what's happening, is that energetically our body is a filter. So if we actually want to release something, it has to come through the body. Now that sometimes comes through as an emotion, but sometimes that can actually be stuck emotions and things that we've let go of, that have been toxicity that we've cleared, but they're then sat in our bowels, in our colon. And unless we actually have a colonic, we're still holding on to that toxic negative energy in our physical body. So when we have the colonics and we do all of this work, and not only does it help us on a physical level, but it has an enormous impact on the amount of light we hold within our body, because we're creating space energetically. So it's profound. It's so important. The gut is probably the most important part for us to really clear and heal, because it has an impact on so many other parts of our well-being.
Yeah, definitely, because that's the thing, it's all linked, and you could just work on feeling your emotions, breathing to regulate, which we all talk about a lot. But then again, if you're then missing the physical aspect of it, you're kind of just adapting and trying to cope even more. So once you go at it from all angles, yeah, like you just become lighter, and you will be raising your frequency, just able to hold more light, and just just feel better for sure. And that's why I always say, like, when you're dealing with anxiety, it's a big part that we work on, and it really does help, because it's like the way you do one thing, the more you become conscious of what you're eating, how you're treating your gut, it's like it feeds into, you become conscious and more aware of everything that you're doing as well. So definitely, yeah.
It's so much with the gut. It's so much about actually looking at the root cause. And historically, as with a lot of things that we've looked at medically in the past, we just treat the symptom and we cover things up. And actually what's happening is it's just getting worse underlying it. And so we end up with multiple complications, because we're not actually tackling the root cause. But this is something which is quite simple to fix. It's not something that's difficult to fix. It's just making those good choices for your body to realign, essentially.
But people don't want to do it's so many, especially when I used to work in an office. So many people had gut issues, IBS, like so many people I worked with, and obviously we know why. Like you just look at your diet, how you're managing your emotions, all of those things were not very good at all. Drinking coffee and eating chocolate all day,
yeah, not going to help.
Stress, all those things. And when I'd have these conversations, I would give people a lot of time, talk to them about it, and then I'd catch up with them and be like, so how's it going? Even on the physical level, have you shifted anything? Have you taken a break from gluten and sugar? Have you started healing that the intestine lining, all things that we're doing? And most of the time it's like it's just like no, I haven't done that. I'm just gonna we turn to these fad diets. So like they'll go on this extreme thing of, right, I'm going to cut out all bread, and then you get these cravings, and then you just go and eat like 5 donuts, because it's all doing it in this really aligned way, having all that information, understanding what the possibilities are, and just making that plan, and just really being conscious of that process and enjoying it as well. Like I really enjoyed learning about all these things. And and again, it's not going to the extreme. So even with the gut, if you're not eating enough, if you're exercising too much, all those things, again, it's adding that stress, which is not going to be helping at all. So yeah,
it's just about listening to your body, really listening to what it actually needs. And it's interesting, because everything that you're talking about there's been elements of it that I've gone through in a different way, because it's obviously a different journey. But there was a point where I left more mainstream work, and started to work more spiritually. And within probably 3 weeks of me being really focused on my spiritual journey again, having come from a stressful estate agent's environment where you're sort of just coping with getting home, having a glass of wine just because you're trying to get rid of the stress of the day, working 2 long hours, you know, all that sort of stuff. And so you're grabbing something in Tesco's on the way home, and wasn't obviously good for my health at all in so many ways. But within a 2 or 3 weeks of me coming back into more balance within myself, I naturally started to not want meat. I just didn't want it. I started to not, I couldn't bring myself to eat it. And then it was gluten. And so I actually naturally detoxed over a period of time because my body was showing me, you shouldn't have that. You don't want that. You don't need that. And now I don't not have, I still don't eat meat. I do have fish occasionally, but I'm just mindful now of what I have and how much of things I have. So generally speaking, the majority of the time our diet is we always cook from scratch. We never eat anything processed. It's all of those, just making those sensible choices that just become part of your daily diet. And since then, touch wood, I haven't had those pains that I used to have. That was it was all sort of stress related. It was all because I was eating the wrong foods for my body. And since I listened to my body and started to have things that were more aligned with me, and even now I know, because Steve was actually saying earlier about what we're going to have for dinner tonight, and I was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure I'm going to want that. It's not because I don't want it, because I don't like it, but I know how my body will feel after I've eaten it. So we start to get sensitive to how our body responds to certain foods. And interestingly, when so you did my human design, and we were talking about this, about what we're naturally drawn to. You like very complex flavors. I like very simple food. And so what I've realized is that the way that I eat naturally is very aligned to my human design. So it's so personal what is right for you, and what your gut will tolerate. And I know that if I have too many ingredients in a meal, my body doesn't like it. And so if there's something that I know there's going to have lots of ingredients in it, and actually what we're talking about was vegetarian toast in the whole, which is lovely for my mind to think, oh, that sounds amazing. I know my body is going to feel so heavy and bloated because of what's in it, that it stops me from wanting to eat it, because I don't like the impact that it has on me for the next 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, and it's supporting each other with that. I feel like you even doing that, some people be like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just eat it? And it's this kind of conditioning of just like, be grateful for what you have, just eat it like it's food. And that's been a struggle for me. People around me think I'm really fussy, but I just know what makes me feel good. And you think our gut is that brain, so it's communicating to us. So of course, the more in tune you are, you're more like, oh my gut does not like that. That's not happy. Especially as we do energy work, we feel a lot in our gut. We burp and all sorts to try and clear energy. So we have to support that. If we're adding on so much more that our gut has to then deal with, it's like it makes our job harder with what we do. So, even in human design, as you were saying, some people have they feel the world and sense the world through their gut feeling as well. So mine's my emotions. Some people are gut feelings, and we all understand that the butterfly is just that gut knowing that we can tune into. So we want to support that part of our body. And I think really it's to get into the baseline. It's knowing, is there any damage there that's been done? Does your I think everyone's intestines will need cleaning. The amount of clunks I've had now, and every time I go back, I'm like, wow, I obviously needed that. Like, intestines are so long and things do get stuck into corners. And so we do need that. And once we have that baseline, we've healed the gut lining, and we start, having the probiotics, feeding our gut what it needs. And like you think of the microbiomes, the thousands and thousands, making sure it's that they're happy, it's that happy bacteria. Then from that baseline, you can then tune into like, okay, well, what do I actually want to eat? What does feel good? And just trust in that feeling always. And it's not saying don't ever eat anything that your gut's not going to like, because we all do, and it's okay to have that balance, enjoy it, but then know, like, okay, so maybe tomorrow, maybe I should drink some more water, or maybe I should if I haven't taken some fermented foods, I'm gonna get some fermented foods this week just to help assist, and just having that understanding and balancing it out, just to help yourself as much as you can.
Well, as with everything that we talk about, it's all about listening to yourself, it's not about following somebody else's program as to what you should do. You have to do this, you have to do that. It's about healing yourself with the tools that we can assist with. And then once you've actually got to that point of, as you were just saying, is that once you've got to that point where all of that healing has been done and everything is much more back to its sort of natural balanced state, you can then start to tune in more to what's right for you. And that's always what everything is about, is listening to your own personal truth. Because it'll be different for everyone. I mean, with what we were talking about with the human design, you and I have got completely different programs that we're running around food. And so if I was to do what you do all the time, I probably wouldn't find that sat well with my gut, because
mine's all about loads of flavors, and actually my digestion of human design is about cold food. So it's kind of, I actually do suit eating raw foods and salads a lot more, because my body temperature can get quite hot, so it's all about cooling it down. I got some very sensitive to that. So like even in the winter, I know I shouldn't be having like super, I love really frosty smoothies, so like they're pretty much like ice cream, but my body will start to shake from it, because I know I shouldn't have that in the winter. So yeah, it's just listening to it.
It's fascinating. And just again, more evidence of how personalized our journey needs to be. With the most important thing for all of us, whatever we're doing, is always about listening to yourself. And there are always general tools that we can use, but it's picking the ones that work for you.
Yeah, and that's why we're going to be bringing out a program, and one of the subjects is going to be gut health. There's going to be so many things on there, including things like supplements. But it's just tuning into it, knowing it's not something you take for life. It's like, okay, so where is my gut? Maybe it's just the microbiome is off balance. Maybe your stomach is too acidic and you go an alkaline diet, or maybe you do have a leaky gut, and then you want to start healing it with glutamine and all these other supplements that can assist with that. And there's some general base rule things of like, everyone should have a colonic. I don't think there's anyone who would be immune to that, to why that would be good. That's like an ancient practice, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. It's the first time that you have it done, it's quite eye-opening.
Yeah. I remember I was so nervous when I first had it done. Now it's completely normal. And and that's the thing, it also, all these things, you're assisting the liver as well, and that's a big part of our health. All these things also working with the liver. So it's an interesting topic, and if you anyone would have their own personal experience of where they are in terms of their gut health and how they're feeling. And I just know IBS is just it's like one of the most common issues that people are suffering with, and there's just no understanding around it. It's just such as like a term, IBS, that when you ask people what exactly is that, they're like, I don't really know, like I don't really know what that means. Or
when you talk to mainstream medical about it, it almost seems to be this amorphous thing that they just sort of put in a box of, don't know what to do with that, so we'll just
because it would take time for them to sit down and explain about the gut, explain, is it leaky gut, is the bacteria, maybe parasites as well. That's another thing, doing all these kind of tests to understand like what I don't quite believe in tests though. Like I will just kind of go across all bases, and so even parasites, there's things you can do, like if there is any in there, take a few things, do a few things just to clear out your lining. It's like you don't need to wait for a test, before I say that, to then do something. You never do. You can just do these things now. I don't really know where I was going with that, but
the proof of it is how you're going to feel. So it's just taking steps and listening to your body as to whether it feels right for you.
That's what I was saying. With the doctors, it's like they don't have the time to really sit down and go through all these things, and that's why we do need to kind of seek that knowledge from other people, and just learn ourselves. Take the steps there,
and you'll know if it's working because you'll feel better. So it's the proof of the pudding, so to speak.
So I'll look forward to sharing that information more with others on a deeper level.
Perfect.
Because if you are suffering with your mental health, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling depressed, your body's not feeling good, well, of course we want to do what we can to move ourselves out of that place of suffering and come into a place of thriving and feeling our best.
Well, if you've got toxins leaking from your gut into your bloodstream and then circulating, it's going to have an impact on your mental health as well as your physical health. So it can clear up. The gut can be responsible for so many issues that are not actually obviously gut related. But when you heal the gut, you can heal on so many other levels. It's just
and just knowing like the normal mainstream of taking medication, it only damages the good bacteria and damages your gut even more. It has actually severe consequences, like say even antibiotics. I think a lot of people know this now, but years ago a lot of people didn't. At this point, when you take antibiotics, it wipes out all your bacteria, even the good. So of course you have to start feeding the ecosystem with the good bacteria and putting that back in as well. So
something that very, very personal experience with that was actually Steve. So for those of you that don't know Steve, my husband, he had a serious brain injury, traumatic brain injury 11 years ago. And when we first met, he didn't look particularly well. It was a year after the accident and he was looking quite grey. And after the accident, about 6 months later, he had meningitis from all sorts of different complications that happened, but he had meningitis and he was having daily doses of antibiotics that they were literally coming in and pumping straight into his heart. So it was intravenous and it would wipe him out for the rest of the day. So these were incredibly strong antibiotics. And his health after that was just declining. And I could see that he was getting grayer and his weight was dropping off. And I had this awareness about the microbiome and the antibiotics. And it just suddenly dawned on me one day. And I said to him, how long were you on those antibiotics for? He was on them for 3 weeks every single day, then being given to him intravenously, which must have been such a high dose, which obviously was needed given the scenario at the time. So we actually went to a centre where they did the bioresonance scans, and she checked and she said he had absolutely no goodness. There was nothing in his gut whatsoever. So we had a month's worth of, I think it was something called Maximal. And immediately he started putting weight on. He started to look a much better colour, and it was all because he had no bacteria. He had no good bacteria in his gut at all. So his food was going straight in one end and out the other, and not actually having any benefit whatsoever. Had no energy. So the impact was profound. The difference in him from just having those supplements that put back the balance within his gut was phenomenal. So
that shows it, doesn't it? Like our microbiome, that whole ecosystem, that's how we're even absorbing our nutrients. That's a good thing to point out. It's like you could even be eating all healthy food, but you might not be absorbing the goodness from them that you need without doing that extra work. So, and that's good. And he even took it was like a strong probiotic, and without even
this was a powdered form. It was having it before food every time he had it, and it was for a month. But there were 2 or 3 things he had, and I forget exactly what. But one of them was it was probiotics. It was a whole group of things that he needed to rebuild his gut and actually rebalance everything. And it took a month, and the difference was huge. And he didn't need to do that to that extreme again, because once it had healed the gut and he'd built the microbiome back again and introduced that healthy bacteria, his body started to rebalance itself. So he was fine. But without that, I'm not quite sure what would have happened, because it would have been looking for something from a mainstream perspective that they would never have found. So,
and I think it's a good point to look at a lot of things. If you're having even allergies, skin issues, migraines, energy levels, autoimmune conditions, sometimes, well, the doctor, you obviously had good tests there, but sometimes you might not know exactly what that is. But always look at the gut. Just look at the gut, because that could be behind that that no one could even tell. Your doctors can't even pick up. So whatever you are suffering, just just ask these questions, just tune in and be like, how, you know, am I doing all these things for my gut to support it? And it might just be the solution that you've been waiting for to help with that. So yeah.
Incredible, thank you. I know you have so much information and wisdom around all of these different topics, and every time we speak, I always hear a bit more and a bit more understanding of the depth of what there is to actually uncover, but also the simplicity within it, because it's not complicated. It's just following certain steps for a certain period of time to actually rebalance everything, so that you can then just trust your intuition, as always, in terms of what's right for you, but being sensible and keeping everything in balance. And
because once you do healing, like, so even now I don't need to do that in that kind of healing, but you know, I still have fermented foods. My gut really reacts to stress now, so I know if I'm overstressed, and my gut will really show me that. So that's why I will really try and manage that, and do breath work and do all those one things for myself if I'm feeling stressed as well. So it's like as everything we do, it's not a one-time thing. It's like how you're living your everyday life to support yourself. Because now more than ever as well, with the work that we're doing, like my gut is another part of my ability to tune in and to clear energy for other people. So it's an interesting part of our being.
Absolutely. And on this journey, we need to more and more be a clear vessel. And that's not just clear vessel energetically, it's a clear vessel physically. So we have to look at all of it as part of a whole, without doing it in separation and just focusing on one part and not the other. We've got to put all of it together, because it's also completely interconnected. So
absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for watching, everybody.
Thank you.
And we will look forward to seeing you at our next Empowered Wholeness episode. We will be next week. You can join us for Jade is going to be offering a breathwork session. So if you watch this and you watch it before next week, which is the first week in December, if you'd like to join us, same time, 12:30 next Thursday, Jade is going to be offering a beautiful empowerment and liberation through breathwork session. So look forward to joining you then.
Which is another thing to help with your gut breathwork.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, thanks everybody. Take care. Bye for now.